Good morning, everyone. Artie Piper here, filling in for TA Tim. Welcome to the Investing Bros, bringing you all of your macroeconomic news, technical analysis, all the headlines that you need to see in the markets. And we are going to have a great show for you today. If you guys like this type of content, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe down at the bottom there. Let us know that you like it so that we know what to bring you next time. But I am not doing this alone today. TA Tim is not here, but I do have my co-host, who's not sitting across the table from me. He's actually sitting across the country from me in this T-Shroom. T-Shroom, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing really, really well, Piper. Doing better than I deserve, actually, some might say. There's been a lot going on this weekend, but I did get a good amount of time to get a little rest and relaxation. So that was really, really good. I've been, let's see, what did I do this weekend? This weekend was Easter. It was Easter. It was Resurrection Sunday. Had some good time to spend with my family, with some friends, and there was a lot of good food. Not just one serving of good food. Good food from a lot of different places. My grandma made some really good ham, and then we went out to my girlfriend Amanda's parents' house, and we had some more ham. So there was a lot of ham. And there was a lot of other delicious sides and things like that. And getting to spend some time with the youngins as well is always a lot of fun. Well, Piper, I've got a quote here for you. If you go over to my screen, and it is as follows. It is never too late to be who you might have been. And that is from George Eliot. So there you go. That is our quote of the day. Is no matter how old you are, no matter how far along you are in your timeline, it's never too late to be what you might have been. So really, really good stuff there from George Eliot. What do you think about that one, Piper?
I think that's absolutely fantastic, considering I just retired from the Army, so absolutely agree. It is never too late to be what you're meant to be. So that's what I'm doing.
Love it.
I'm doing my thing over here. So let me go ahead and jump over to our setup bro cam here, because I'm going to bring you on for a second while we read some of these messages here, comments down in the chat below. We got, I think, Eric Brubaker. Is that what you're tracking as first in today? Because we got to read
let me
these
take
names.
a look.
I believe it is Eric Brubaker that we have there. So
I have a mellow fellow.
You have a mellow fellow. Well, you know what? We're just going to go with the mellow fellow because he's normally in here. But if not, we're going to give an honorable shout out to Eric Brubaker, because that looks like what I had here. So that's fantastic. Let me go ahead and jump over and see who else we got here. We got Average Crypto Joe. We've got Bedredden in here with the Good Morning Bros. We got Alton Henderson in the house today. Who else we got here? Who are you seeing on your end there, T-Shroom?
Oh, I'm seeing a lot of really good names, Piper. Let's see. As always, the poll is nice and in the way there. Let's see. A Kid Coleman, Mellow Fellow, Gia S, Lord Kooks, Crypto Trades. Big shout out to Crypto Trades. Stays in the Discord, loves the Discord, and we love him there. Alton Henderson, and Brian D, and Max PP. Max PP, one of my favorite names there. Grand Roofing Incorporated, Win Peoples. I don't see Servando Estrada yet, but if we see him, we are absolutely going to shout him out.
Servando Estrada.
No Servando today, quite yet.
We got Crux Crypto in the house today. He's got that blue wrench there, and we're always happy to see him. Trevor S. Al Bundles in the house today. Crypto Ben Franklin, the non-president, saying, good morning, bros. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I did. You did. Let's get one more in here. Did you say Brian D? I believe you did. Crypto Trades. Yep. Josh Denham. Yep, I think we got them all. Oh, the Kid Coleman. He's in the house too. And Win Peoples. Someone said my volume's a bit low. Let me bring my volume up just a little bit then here.
We want to be able to hear you, Piper. We want to be able to hear those beautiful pipes from Piper.
Is this better? Yes. Maddie123 said, morning, chaps. So good morning to you also. I'm going to go ahead and transition here a little bit. We're going to get into some of this macro news and take a look at what we got going on here. Because This is a big week, guys. We got a huge week coming to you guys this week. Macroeconomic news. Let's jump over into that and let's get it. So, looking here, starting off with today, we don't really have a lot today, folks. We've got Fed Williams' speech, and I'm looking at Impact 2 and above. There's up to 3 stars. You can click here. So, yeah, we got Fed Williams' speech today. Nothing big going on there. Looking at Tuesday, tomorrow, we do have Fed Harker's speech here. Not really sure what he's going to put out. Another Fed speech. But we do have European area has retail sales year over year coming out and retail sales month over month. So for our Forex traders, they might see some price action going on with the USD to the euro. Wednesday, that's our big day, 48 hours from now, T-Shroom. We're going to be looking at inflation rate coming out for the U.S., our core inflation rate, and our current inflation rate. Looking at the core inflation rate on Wednesday, we're previously at 5.5%. They actually have a consensus that our inflation might go up 0.1%. However, the forecast is only 5.5%. And then our inflation rate, though, this is the big one. It's at 6% currently. They're actually projecting that consensus and forecast will both be lower. Consensus coming in at 5.2%, forecast coming in at 5.3%. So curious to see how that plays out. We'll see. And then also later on that afternoon, we'll have the FOMC minutes. What this is this is the actual transcript from the last Fed Reserve FOMC talking about what actually was said in detail. And so there'll be some very smart people or some people that think they're very smart at least digging deep into that FOMC document minutes to see what exactly is going on there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the CME Fed Watch tool and what we have going on here today. Let's move it down here. Let's give it a little refresh because, sometimes this thing does change quickly. So taking a look at the FOMC here, we are looking at 71.9% chance of a 25 basis point hike going on the next one. That's going to be on 3 May. So in the next FOMC rate hike meeting, it's going to be 71.9% for that rate hike. And that's likely because of that lowering inflation that we're seeing coming in on the consensus and forecast for those CPI rates this week. So we'll see. I mean, right now it's only 28% that is back at zero, but we have seen this thing flip exact opposite on the slightest bit of news. So on Wednesday, we'll be taking a close look at this and seeing what we have going on there. I do want to jump over into crypto bubbles just to show you guys what's going on here. Looking at the weekly right now, big movers this week. XRD up 26.2%. Chili's getting a lot of action this past week. Just a lot of action on the blockchain, moving up 7.2%. Engine, which we just did I did a little TA on this on our newsletter, which is coming out right after the show today. So yeah, there's going to be some TA done on ENJ over there, and I actually had a 10% move on my charts for the week, and it's 6.4 here. So obviously a lot of that was last Monday, 4% of that falling off now that we're in a new week. BGB up 11.3% and Curve at 8.8%. Not a lot of big projects in here besides like Chili's and Engine, but in Curve, I guess, but a lot of these just really down. A lot of red in here too. We got HBAR down 8.8%, CAS down 16.5%, Hex down 8.2%. So that's what I'm seeing there. T-Shroom, you got anything to say about this stuff, or you want me to drive on into some TA?
Well, I'm really liking what I'm seeing there. It's mixed, but there's a good amount of recognizable green names there on our bubbles map, which is always really good to see. One thing I wanted to point out is that earnings season is coming up on Friday.
Yes,
and
it is.
Piper and I, and what does earnings season even mean? What does that mean? Because we're in a crypto world. Some of us are in a crypto bubble, no pun intended, for our last segment. But there is a whole world of equities and stocks, things like Apple, things like Microsoft, ExxonMobil. You know them, you love them. Maybe you don't love them. But coming this Friday, all of those corporations that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ are required to file their earnings reports, to give their investors, give their shareholders and the media an idea of how the health of their corporations and how their earnings are going, how their profits are going. And so those get reported every 4 times a year. So that is going to be kicking off for Q1 on Friday of this week. So Piper and I are going to be covering that in a little bit of a new way. First of all, we'll absolutely be covering kind of the headlines of what's coming up and what happened the day before in earnings. And that's going to be on the live show. But we're also going to be putting out videos, not daily, but they'll be periodically through the week when there are major spikes and concentrations of important earnings. So be looking out for that. Those videos are probably going to be around 4 to 6 minutes, just quickly kind of wrapping up, hey, JP Morgan missed its earnings, JP Morgan met its earnings, and then what that means for your portfolio if you're finance heavy and bank heavy, which at this point, if you're still bank heavy, some question marks for you. But that'll be the way that we cover this earnings season, because we are in the investing bros and you can invest in stocks, believe it or not. So we're gonna definitely be covering it in a little bit of a different way. And we're really, really excited to be doing that and expanding out kind of our whole education and our whole coverage of the equity side of investing. In addition to that, T-Shroom, I will be doing some educational videos on equities. We've been hearing from the community on Discord that people want to know about equities. How do they invest in stocks? What should they be looking for? So I'm going to be doing some for dummies videos, just very, very rudimentary stuff like what is the S&P? What is a stock index? What is the NASDAQ? Different things like that. What is a P to E ratio? Different things that you would look at that are a little bit similar to what you would look at when assessing a crypto. So that's going to be some updates coming up for the next couple weeks to watch for as we get into earnings seasons and equities start to take control of the market. So that's going to be exciting. Back to you, Piper.
Excellent. So NASDAQ, is that a token? What is that exactly, T-Stream? So yeah, let's go ahead. I'm very excited about that. It's going to be fantastic to see that stuff. And we are going to be jumping over into crypto charts now. So if you guys like this content and you guys enjoy seeing all of this stuff and you're looking forward to seeing all of the releases that we've got coming up on earnings season, go ahead, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell, get notified every time we go live here on Investing Bros. We like you, and we like you even more when you hit that like button. So appreciate that. Let's jump over to some charts. And let's look at some Bitcoin because, guys, as the thumbnail said today, we told you that there is some movements that are coming, and it's all because of this wedge right here. Looking at this wedge right here, you can see that we have been trading in this, and really it goes back flat for like, let's see here. Looking at about 23 days and 12 hours. If you go all the way out to the end of this, it's almost to the 30-day mark, okay? So if we take this, I want to show you a little something here before that we had. And let me jump over into a split chart here. And we're going to take a look at what we have here because it's quite interesting when we look at this. This is right now, currently, and over on this chart is our previous bear cycle. Some interesting things here. This sideways price action here occurred. This was after our move up from the bottom, okay, which is a lot of what we're actually seeing right now. A little bit different on the scale, but pretty similar. And if you take a look here, we actually had about 30 days of sideways price action before it went up and took off. So if we look here to the first level that it bounced up to out of this breakout, this was ultimately a 41% move. And then it, more sideways action. We kept getting this little higher low price action going here. Let me show you a little bit here. You can see these higher lows coming in, higher highs started coming in, and then it had another breakout to the upside. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. And if we go over and we go back to our other chart, let's bring this back up here and show you what we're looking at here. If we take a look at this breakout here, guys, and this is going to happen in the next 48 hours. This period right here is going to line us up perfectly with what we're seeing on Wednesday with the inflation data coming out, okay? So that's why this is relevant. I want to show you what this breakout point would be on this, though. We're going to go ahead and measure this off between the two farthest distances. Let's go ahead and put it right there. Oh, look at that. That is a $31,000 Bitcoin, T-Shroom. If you take a look, it's also going to be bouncing right here on our upper line of our predictive ranges from Chart Prime. And let's go ahead. I want to turn off these the local fib retracement here just to bring this into focus a little bit so you guys can see what else is happening on the chart here. So yeah, that would bring us up to our upper band of our predictive ranges here. But also, if we take a look at the daily, guys, check this out. We're going to be doing this breakout here coming in right past our upper support line. If we test this, break above it, get this as support, we could essentially be looking at a $35,000 Bitcoin. But I think, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I want to see it hit that 30,000 and find support there first. That's going to be a big range going back here that we have to get ourselves above and find support on this line here, which is right about that 30,000. So could it happen this Wednesday? It is very, very possible. And I'm going to be curious to see what happens with the price action on the charts. We do have this dynamic reactor pushing up here. It's going to be giving us some support eventually also, but I think we're going to break out. We're going to see this come back up. We do have the MACD right now with the signal lines crossing in, giving us a nice look of upside movement here also on the 12-hour. And we did get that ribbon twist coming in right off of this upper support line. That was a resistance. We turned it into support, and now we got that ribbon twist, the green momentum dot on the oscillator, and it's moving upwards, and it does not have a sign of slowing down right now. So I think the next 48 hours is going to be big on Bitcoin. Let's go ahead, take a look at another token here. I want to pull up Ethereum, and let's see what's going on with Ethereum right now. Ethereum got its rejection here, and we're looking on the 12-hour, but last Wednesday, guys, we got a rejection on this upper resistance band of the predictive ranges from Chart Prime, and we also got a rejection on the top of the platinum pocket. We came back for a perfect retest on the 786 of the platinum pocket, and that's where we've been right now the whole time. You can see here, not looking as strong as Bitcoin over here on the 12-hour right now. For Ethereum, we do have the histogram printing a bright red block for the past 12 hours, but it is very likely that we're going to see a movement up here today as this oscillator ribbon is starting to flatten out here, guys, and it hits this zero line. This is called a zero line rejection, or a zero line bounce. And if we get this bounce right here and this comes back up, we can expect that we're going to come back up and give another test on this 887 on the fib line here, and also on this upper resistance band of the predictive ranges here. So Ethereum making some decent moves. Let's go ahead and take a look over here at one of the movers today that I'm seeing, and that is HBAR. HBAR right now has been operating underneath its dynamic reactor here. Not a whole lot of price action on it besides this big drop from the upper trade band. Remember, majority of price action occurs between these two trade bands. I don't think we're going to come all the way down to this level as we are trying to fight our way back up right now, but it does have a little bit of a movement today, 1.55% in comparison to all of the red that we have going on here, but that's what I'm seeing on HBAR. And one last thing I want to take a look at real fast is the Dixie here. And actually, let's go ahead and drop this in and take a look at the Dixie going on right here on its on the 4-screener. I like to do this 4-screener because it definitely gives me a good perspective of what's going on versus the Dow Jones versus the Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Right now, over here, Dixie getting quite the pump today, coming off of its dynamic reactor, breaking out of its trade band, created an entire new range of predictive ranges here, and now getting rejected from its upper trade band. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of a static movement. But what I will point out is that normally we are inverse to what the Dixie is doing. The Dixie has had this move up this morning, but you notice that Bitcoin and Ethereum are just running sideways while the Dow Jones is pushed down. So wow. Very interesting stuff going on there. The stocks doing opposite of the Dixie. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most other cryptos not phased at all by it. So that's what I have on the crypto charts there. We're going to be getting back into some of that, some more of that crypto and other charts here at the end and Q&A, TA. But I think T-Shroom, you got some stock news for us and some headlines today, don't you?
That's right. Well, yeah, one of the things we want to go ahead and get into is actually some pretty breaking news, at least in the media. But what I want to show you guys is actually this news has been out for a little while. So go ahead and go to my screen, and what would seem to be breaking news, because if you go on Twitter, it's all over. There are the Washington Times, RT, Daily Mail Online, The Hill, the New York Times, all posting within the last 10 hours about this Pentagon paper scramble to identify who leaked the classified documents. But what I'll point out to you guys here on the Investing Bros is that the Pentagon probing leaked documents purporting to preview Ukraine offensive. This has been out on the New York Post since April 7th. So this headline may be slightly different, but I mean, it's got the word Pentagon, leaked documents, and Ukraine all in the headline. So it's kind of leaving me head scratching. Why is this now seeming like it's breaking news? Well, let's go ahead and get into some of the details, and we might be able to find that out. And we're getting into this is geopolitical news here. Obviously, this is not investing news, but this is breaking, or at least the media is trying to convince us that it's breaking. I don't have a ton of reason to believe that this isn't still important and worthy of our attention. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Again, the headline: Pentagon probing more alleged classified documents posting online, some marked with highest classification. So the word more there may be showing a little bit of light of why we've already seen the New York Post having some headlines to this effect, because maybe now there are more alleged classified docs. All right, let's get into some of the details here. The Pentagon is investigating purported classified U.S. military and intelligence documents posted on social media, adding to concerns of potential breach after documents that appeared to be U.S. and NATO efforts to aid Ukraine were posted online earlier this week. And this was posted on, I believe it was a forum for the computer game Minecraft, is at least what the Washington Times is reporting there. The documents were posted around March 1st, containing information about the U.S. weapons provided to the Ukraine, which disposition of the Ukraine forces in addition to sensitive intelligence regarding several other nations, including Israel and South Korea. So these countries are not going to be happy, Israel and South Korea, that essentially the U.S. has been running intelligence and has documents on them. That is definitely not going to be great. So overall, this is not a good look for the United States. It's continuing. It's this continued narrative that the U.S. is losing credibility. That is not good. So Piper, I want to throw it over to you. Kind of what are your takes on this story and the deeper lore here that the New York Post has actually had this headline running for since the 7th?
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. These Pentagon documents. So I think that at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a big nothing burger. We hear stuff all the time. I mean, how many times has the Pentagon, failed its audits? Like, there's always stuff bad coming out of the Pentagon. It gets shaken off pretty quick. So, as far as the article, I would need to dig into it a lot more because you just told me about it at the beginning of the show, and I did a quick brief scan on it, but nothing too deep on it. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Pentagon always has stuff that gets leaked that always has things that they fail to do, always has things that should give them black eyes, but they're pretty tough. So I think at the end of the day, no one really wants to. They want to reprimand a general. Somebody might lose a job, but I don't think overall it's going to affect too much. So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump over and take a look at some stocks then, and go ahead and check those out. Now, what I'll remind you is that markets were closed on Friday, so keep that in mind. But let's go ahead and do just a quick analysis of some of the biggest stocks in the New York Stock Exchange. Microsoft actually happens to be held by the Dow Jones, the SPY, and the NASDAQ. All in the greatest proportion weighted wise, which is something that a lot of people don't know. And that makes Microsoft, in my mind, the golden stock. It's kind of the stock, if you're not wanting to just go ahead and buy an index in general, Microsoft is kind of just the next best thing because it does command such a heavy weight of the indexes. What is an index, you might ask? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to our channel. Go ahead, like and subscribe, because we're going to be putting out a ton of videos on exactly that, basically a deep dive into what stock indexes are. But as you can see here on my screen, you can see that Microsoft has broken through this downtrending line of resistance, and it hasn't technically, in my mind, I mean, at least on the weekly chart, it has not come back and confirmed that as support. It has just powered through. Now, if we were to zoom down to the daily chart or the 4-hour, more than likely you would see this line of support being confirmed. For intensive purposes, you could probably imagine that is now in line with support. So where is Microsoft headed from here? Well, there's a decent there's a decent amount of resistance here at 318, 316, that range. So you could probably imagine that Microsoft has a decent amount of room to run up until there. But let's go ahead and turn on the smart money concepts here from Chart Prime and see what else we can learn here. So what's jumping out to me is I'm taking a look here at the direction or the proximity from the equilibrium range here, and Microsoft is well off of that. And on the weekly chart, it actually hasn't tapped that in quite a long time. The closest it got was down back here in Monday, October 31st of last year. So this really has been in the premium zone, I would say. It has been, some could say, overbought according to this metric, according to this indicator, the Smart Money Concepts bundle. So it's not really the best thing to buy from that standpoint. However, it still continues to get bought and the price gets bidded to the upside. So very interesting movement there. Microsoft is seen as kind of the most secure of the big tech companies, and is the best one to pour your money into, as tech is looking to be wavering. If you still want to be exposed to big tech, Microsoft seems to be the biggest and the best one. The next best ones would be Apple and Google, but they haven't been around as long. That's the simple fact of the matter. They haven't been around as long. They're not considered as robust in terms of security move as Microsoft. So that's why I bring up Microsoft. It's always really interesting to take a look at that name and see kind of where it's heading. And Piper, I think that you might have something to say about Microsoft as well.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at your chart right now, and it is interesting that these little pullbacks that they've had there have created higher lows. Looking off of the bounce on that lower pattern line, it is very possible, looking at the oscillator, with it being in that overbought range there, and the way that the MACD is kind of doing this wave thing on the histogram down below that this could come back to retest that top support line. Yeah, you see that little wave action going on there? It's very likely that price action could come back to retest that top line. And from there, that would be extremely bullish on a positive retest of that. So just bouncing right off the top of that pattern there on a nice retest would give it a nice move up. So.
Okay. Well, that's good input. I like how you popped in and popped out there, like you're from another dimension. That's pretty cool. So let's keep this in mind. Can I keep in mind also the oscillators on this is again the weekly chart. Take kind of a mental snapshot of where the oscillators are as well. Also point out, coming out of a multi-month bearish divergence there. So keep that in mind as well. It broke that and was able to, or that played out, and it had a little bit of a downside move at the end of that, which kind of makes sense. That's what happens at the end of a bearish divergence, right? But then it got bought aggressively here at just under $250 at 246 and moved to the upside very decisively, again, slicing through this line of resistance and making it its support.
But very clean breakout for sure.
Yeah. But let's also compare that here to JP Morgan, and let's see if we can gather some similar conclusions, or what conclusions we can gather. Okay, so right off the bat, the Smart Money Concepts is showing me this is being traded much closer to the equilibrium price here. So this is something that is not getting bought up as aggressively, but it did have a nice run up here. Goodness gracious, actually quite a nice run up here. If you're counting the wick to the top here, 41% there since October 22nd. So quite a move, and quite an impressive move there, and has now sold off and gave back. I probably call that about half of that move to the upside. From an oscillator standpoint, JP Morgan is very underbought. It's not quite in this green range here, which is going to start to signal a reversal and a move to the upside. You do have one green triangle. I almost said orange. We have one green triangle here, which is signaling, there could be some bullish momentum starting to form. But taking a look at the MACD, you are seeing accelerating red histograms there, and both of the MACD lines pointing downwards. So I would say stay away here. You also have the underlying kind of bank narrative that may de-incentivize investors to put money into the banks right now, even though this JP Morgan obviously is the biggest of the banks in the world. So that is something to consider there as well. So let's take a look. Piper, I want to throw it over to you. Are there any equities that you've been watching that we could do some quick analysis here before the market open?
No, not really much on the equities. Okay. I know gold's been those are commodities, but I've been watching gold and silver, but not much on the equities. What are you seeing on the heavy metals there? You seen anything interesting?
Yeah, let's take a look. So I've got gold pulled up here, and we're going to let some of our indicators load. But right off the bat, what I'm noticing is that it's kind of at the high end of its range and it's actually pushing higher. So, and yes, indeed, on the weekly chart, Chart Prime has recently, within the last 3 weeks, given it a possible reversal downward. It bucked that reversal and kept moving up towards that premium range, of which it wicked back, of which it wicked into again on the weekly chart back in early March of 2022. So keep that in mind. It's not 2023, March of last year, it wicked in, and it had also done that back in 2020, back in August of 2020. So it has played with this range a couple of times. Again, this is gold spot on the weekly. It has played with this range a couple of times, but it was a very quick run up both times, right? Back here in 2020, it ran up very quickly within a short period of time. There wasn't much build up. It was just a shoot straight up. And then the same thing here, just to shoot straight up. There wasn't really much buildup. Whereas here we've had a lot of we had a lot more buildup, a lot more testing lower. You see this move from October 2022 on up to January 2023 of this year. That move then got a nice little correction, which I would consider this move up to be stronger because of. So again, the logic there is that it's built more scaffolding around its move to the upside here. And as you can see, it has, I think that it's done that because of its proximity to the dynamic reactor. So it's been able to move up, test that dynamic reactor, and then move higher. That dynamic reactor, of course, being brought to you by Chart Prime, links to which of that indicator you can find in our description. So my prediction here, guys, is that gold is pretty bullish, even though it's kind of entering an overbought zone here on the oscillator. Let's take a look at the MACD. MACD showing similar signs, although it has room to run from a MACD standpoint, because not just in January, it was much higher than this, up to the 26 level there on the MACD histogram level, of which it's right around just below 15, but has rounded and could be interpreted as making its move to the downside there on the MACD. But I would say here, what I'm expecting from gold is that it's going to go into a reload phase. And there's some pretty strong resistance down here at 1916. Piper, I want to go to throw it to you. What do you think is going to happen to gold from here? Do you think it's going to come back down and tap this resistance and go higher and make a run at that premium level like it did back here in February 2022 and 2020? Or do you think it's going to go ahead and make a move all the way back to the dynamic reactor, fail and go lower, or be complacent and move sideways?
I think that we're probably going to have some news that come out from the Fed that, saying that everything in the banks is good, right? Mm-hmm. Don't pay attention to anything behind the green curtain. Right. And I think that we might have a little pullback on gold. It does look like the cloud is getting a little tight there on the oscillator. And when that typically happens, we do see a move, but I don't think that it's going to go below the dynamic reactor there. Looking at this chart on the weekly, I think at the most it's going to come down probably to that range there, because you can see some support there right about where you're at right now with that previous break of structure. There's a ton of support in that range there. So I can see a retest down to that level on the Fed coming out saying, smoke and mirrors tricks, don't look behind the curtain, and everything's great at the banks. But I do want to point out something. Are you done on this chart?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let's do this. Let's pull this up here. Let's get into here. I want to talk about some of the things that are going on in the chat right now, because there's some interesting stuff coming in here. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way, and let's bring in Johnny's thing right here. He said, we got Johnny coming in from Australia, and he brought this in, and I'm going to move it down here, and we're going to bring this into this little area, because I don't normally have this set up, but we do today, so let's use it. Johnny said you cannot go into banks in Australia and take out money. It's becoming obsolete. And he had said earlier that banks were closing. So I asked him what he meant, and he said you can't go in and take out your money. So I just wanted to point that out. That was a pretty interesting thing coming in from Johnny there. So very, very interesting to see that. We were just talking about the banks in the U.S. likely going to have the Fed come out and say some mumbo jumbo that makes everybody go, okay, the banks are safe again, and that might give us a little pullback on that gold. So I also want to talk about the poll. We had a poll this morning. Bitcoin could have a big breakout in the next 48 hours. Which way does it break? Looking at this right now, 39 minutes, this has been up 96 votes. 53% are saying to the upside, 20% to the downside, 27% say more boring sideways. So pretty interesting. I think sentiment overall is very bullish. We're seeing that a lot anyways, in the communities out there, in our Discord for Investing Bros and Chart Prime. We're seeing the price action. I tend to lean more towards that upside also, but I just wanted to go over that poll there and put that out there and talk about the banks, because we were talking about gold. When you talk about banks, you got to talk about gold. When you talk about gold, you got to talk about the bank sentiment, right? And evidently, Australia, bad sentiment on the banks. So
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. And I also noticed we got Crypto Archie in the chat, watching along. What's up, Crypto Archie? Great to have you in and watching and taking a look at what we got going on here at 9:35. The New York session has begun here on Monday, April 10th, just after Resurrection Weekend. So great to have Archie in the chat.
absolutely
Also,
love that guy.
Crux of Crypto shouting him out, and Curtis Rorick saying, "Good morning, bros. Sorry I'm late again." So Curtis Rorick feeling apologetic there about his tardiness. I can understand that. And then we were getting some interesting comments about DOT, and I'll briefly kind of dive into this for a second, and then we'll go into our market open here, because we're about 5 minutes into the open. We want to make sure we're kind of commentating on that. But Wayne Catero was talking about DOT and how he thinks that the SEC is going to view DOT as software. This is something I've never heard of.
I've heard this recently also.
You have? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Piper?
I think it's pretty interesting. I could see, but honestly, if that's the case law that falls in line on DOT, I could see a whole lot of other tokens pushing that they are a software technology and not anything else. When you have utility being done of like shipping containers on smart contracts, automatically knowing how to maximize the ship output when they're at the docks, the wharfs, and everything. I mean, that is a software. That is not a cryptocurrency. That's not a currency. It's a technological software. So I could see that actually becoming some case law for a lot of people's cases out there. So go DOT, lead the way and fight for us. So,
well, hey, the DOT legal team are making that claim. I'm sure it's founded on something solid, but upon first reading and first consideration of that, I think that it's silly. But that, again, this is just my first understanding of it, and there's definitely a lot more research for me to do. But just from what we've been hearing so far from XRP trying to claim it's not security, from Ethereum and the dynamics between Ethereum and Bitcoin, the consensus growing among the SEC and the CFTC that it is a commodity. You know, that's really like the battleground. And with DOT potentially coming in here and expanding it out to a third option of no, this technology is just software. This isn't a commodity. It's not security. It's just a piece of the puzzle of a piece of software. Just like you'd have servers, just like you'd have, administrators. The coin, DOT is just a part of the piece of the puzzle of software. It's an interesting argument. I don't know if that's going to be, another question I have is why is DOT uniquely that and not Ethereum, or like Atom, another interoperability chain. So that's kind of the question I would ask too. What makes
absolutely.
DOT
and that's why I was arguing that if that's the case for Polkadot, it's case law for a lot of other tokens. So I hope they fight it all the way, and I hope they win it. And it gives a lot of that pressure off of these other smart contract tokens out there. So.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate that inside scoop there from, what was the name? Wagyu Trader or something?
Yeah, I believe so. Wayne. I thought it was Wayne.
Wayne. Yeah, Wayne Catero. I don't know why I thought Wagyu. Maybe it's just because I'm hungry here in the 5 minutes, in the 8 minutes of the New York session. Well, let's go ahead and take a look here, guys, at energy. We'll start with energy, and goodness gracious, is it opening higher for natural gas. Natural gas ETF is opening up 5.8% higher. The futures contracts on NG1 is up 7.5. So natural gas getting a big pop this morning. I wonder if that has something to do with maybe the Pentagon leak. Probably not, but I can't really think of anything else. We'll have to do some research on that and tweet out some updates, maybe update in the Discord. Oil not really doing much here, opening up 0.1% higher. So nothing to see there in oil, a lot to see there in natural gas. Your indexes are going to be opening up and signaling a rotation out of risk this morning. So we're seeing the NASDAQ down 1.2%. And the Dow Jones down the least 0.2%. So again, signaling a rotation out of security, but also out of risk more aggressively than out of security. So that's the way that I would interpret that what the indexes are telling us this morning. Moving right along, you're seeing red on the screen, not a green name to be found there in our crypto watch list. Let's see who's leading it lower. It would be Optimism Chain. Yes. So Optimism Chain down 2.4% here in the early minutes of the New York session. And we shall see what happens with that. Let's go ahead and open up the charts here. I'm curious. Too curious not to click here, guys. I got the weekly chart pulled up. Probably not the most useful one to take a look at here, but just similar to Bitcoin, you're getting these very heavy consolidated candlesticks that are almost dojiing, but these are at the bottom of the range here as Optimism Chain has been moving lower since the open of the year. Let's drill down and let me show you what I'm talking about with that. So if you take a look at Bitcoin, so it's got these doji candles, 4 of which, but it's at the top of the range here. So very interesting difference there between Optimism and Bitcoin there. But let me look at Optimism here on a more reasonable chart on the daily chart. And yes, there's a lot more to be concluded here. It is definitely still trading at the bottom of a range of a triangle, but of an ascending triangle, I should say. But there's not a ton to really convince me that this is necessarily a buy quite yet. Also, not a ton of data here on the Coinbase chart, so the equilibrium and the discount are getting kind of confused down here. But I would say, considering it is above the dynamic reactor, this would be more of a buy than a sell. But Piper, I want to throw it to you. What are you seeing here on the Optimism Chain chart?
I am not seeing much at all on Optimism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's looking very flat. It looks like the oscillator ribbon could have a zero line rejection coming up there
true.
on that middle line.
Mm-hmm.
It does look like the MACD is cooling off a little bit right now.
Mm-hmm.
We could just stay sideways on Optimism, honestly. I mean, because if you look at the other cool downs there, it just went along that support line on the wedge. So, I don't think that I would be looking to trade this right now, but I would absolutely, if I was looking to get into Optimism, not financial advice, but if I was looking to buy some Optimism for my own moon bag, I would probably start DCAing on a pullback to the dynamic reactor, towards the dynamic reactor, and then I would be, looking for the upside from there. So.
Yeah, so probably somewhere around $2 $2.
Nice psychological number. 1, 2, great support on the dynamic reactor. 3, it would be that nice wick fake out down to there. Fake everybody out on the breakout of that broadening wedge. Take all that liquidity, up we go. So
yeah, optimism there, guys. Feeling a little optimistic. My conclusion on this would be more a buy than a sell. Just because it has been consolidating, and similar to Bitcoin, there's probably a breakout coming fairly soon. And I would say, just based on what I'm seeing, the only real bearish note here is that it could be rejected by the zero line there on the oscillator, as Piper pointed out. But that's really it, and that's not that bearish. Everything else that I'm seeing here is pointing towards Optimism more than likely breaking out to the upside. So let's keep moving though, because we are in the market open. We got sidetracked there with the biggest loser on the crypto charts. You want to buy low and sell high, folks. That's why we're pointing it out here for you this morning. Silver and gold getting sold off. Gold getting sold off to the tune of 1% this morning, and silver down 0.3%. So
told you I saw a gold pullback coming.
Yeah, you did. Mega cap tech stocks coming in real red. Tesla down 4% here, guys, in the first 13 minutes. And then you're also seeing Meta sell off down 0.18%. And that's pretty much the trend for every other name here that I'm seeing, except for Apple, which is down even more, down 2.3%. Wow. Let's take a look at Apple here, getting a little bit of a sell off here on Monday. Markets were closed Friday. I wonder if there was selling pressure building and is now being released. yeah, there's probably not much support here down until 160. So this it's almost there now on the dollar value, but 160.33. So it's got a ways to go, and then you get a nice level of support here at 157. So could see some pretty significant downside here for Apple as it trades right between its premium and equilibrium, almost equidistant to those ranges there. But the fact that it's above that equilibrium, sellers may be hesitant to try to take positions in a name like Apple, because a name like Apple is so much better to buy when it's below the equilibrium, because a name like Apple isn't going anywhere. Everybody keeps buying their products. So I want to buy it when it's on a discount. All right, making our way further down here. Actually, let's look at Tesla, because goodness gracious, it's down 4 and almost 0.5%. Yeah, so it's much further along in its descent than Apple is, but it is finding support here. More than likely going to be finding some support here in this range that's been built here. So it is now down below on the daily chart. It is down below its dynamic reactor. Didn't spend much time there. Only one candlestick, only one day. It looks like it closed. Got up to that equilibrium range though. So that's good. It was able to close in the equilibrium range before it went lower. So sadly though, for Tesla here, what I'm noticing is that this is a lower high than what was closed here back on Wednesday, the 5th of February. So this is signaling to me that, there could be more sell-off, more room to run to the downside, down to that discount range. Now, what did I just say about Apple, though? That this is where you want to buy names of high conviction. Now, I wouldn't put Tesla up there with Apple quite yet. And Piper, I'd be curious to see if you would. They're a great company, but they have not gotten anywhere near the proving grounds level as Apple has. But I would be interested probably to start buying Tesla again, probably around here, once it's broken through these lines of support and gone down here to this downtrending pink line of support. So probably somewhere around 225, 125, maybe 130, might start picking some of it up. Piper, what do you think?
I think you got a lot of hopium in that target there.
Okay.
I don't think it would go that low. That order block there looks to be very strong historically going back there. You're looking at daily charts, so you can see that even that downward momentum kept it inside of that order block.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter
here.
Yep, and a lot of times when you see that lower highs come in, like you were pointing out, a lot of times when you see that, it's because people are front running to get in before everyone else, and so then it sell off. If I wait till this point, I might miss it, and someone's going to front run me, so they front run everyone else, and it keeps happening at the bottom on buying and at the top on selling, which is what creates so many wedge formations. So it's people front running back and forth trying to get in just before everyone else, and that's what creates that tapering for a wedge. So there you go.
Gotcha. So you think my buying target down here is a little too optimistic? You don't think it's going to get down that low?
No, I think at the most, and honestly, that order block that closed out back there previously before the last run up to the dynamic reactor, that one actually probably still is in play a little bit. You can adjust it in settings, but that would be the lowest that I would look, is that previous order block coming in there on your price. So.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we got to keep moving here, guys. We've spent a lot of time in mega cap stocks and in crypto, taking a look at the charts over there on Optimism. So just going to quickly run through here. A little bit mixed on the bond yields, as you've seen a little bit of difference in the color. It's looking like a Christmas tree, got red and green there. So that's interesting. Man, the bonds are just continuing to perplex the market. Not really sure exactly which way they want to move. Let's see. Cannabis is green across the screen there. Nicely done, Cannabis. And then your mid cap tech stocks are pretty much red across the screen, except Jenny. What you got, Piper?
We had a request from someone in the chat earlier asking you to take a look at AI. So
AI, yeah. Well, let's leave that till I'll write that one down. Let's leave that until
Q&A TA. That's a great idea,
right.
T-Shroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
If only we had a section to do that in.
Yeah, exactly. And then your oil producers, curiously up here with Marathon and Oxy up 2%. Now, what I will say is there is a big deal that just hit the media that ExxonMobil could buy Pioneer Investing, or Pioneer. What is the name of this company? Pioneer Natural Resources Company. So keep an eye on that, guys. That acquisition could be pretty big. Actually, it could be very big. Pioneer, I think, is the leading fracking company in the United States, and they operate in that West Texas region. So pretty interesting M&A movement there. I mean, that is more than likely the reason for that your movement there in the oil producers, because oil is stagnant this morning, really up only 0.2%, not very much for a commodity like oil. Guys, we're going to go ahead and pivot here. We're going to move into our stories, but before we do, I want to remind you all that there is an event coming up, and it is, whoa, I need to refresh this screen. It's the it was all kind of canky wonkus there. You got 2 days until the price goes up here for the tickets for Consensus. Consensus is an event that Piper and myself and Tim Warren, who's not on the show today, are going to be at. We're going to be there. Absolutely. April 26th through the 28th in Austin, Texas. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a meetup of all of your favorite crypto YouTube influencers and some of your not so favorite, perhaps, if you have some frenemies out here in the crypto YouTube space. I certainly don't. I love everybody, but you might watching. So let's go ahead and let you guys know that down in the comments, you'll find no links, but in the description, you'll find many links, and one of which is your 15% off discount when you use that bro code BROS. Stick to the bro code, fellas and ladies. BROS is your code to use when you click on this link for Consensus 2023. Again, the price is going up here in 2 days, 14 hours. Piper, T-Shroom, Tim Warren, going to be there, going to be shaking hands, well-sanitized hands, I'll say, and we're going to be having a lot of fun. So
we're also going to have Crux there, but he's not going to be at the conference with us. Crux is going to be putting together some quick summary updates so that we can go live while we're in Austin, give you guys updates on what we've seen, all of this and that. So Crux, pivotal piece of what we're going to be producing and our success levels at Consensus for live stream for the community.
Absolutely. So. And we might as well mention while we're here, you can just go to the Brocam here. While we're here, we've got a new newsletter coming out today, and Crux is more than pivotal for that newsletter. We brought up Crux. We're going to go ahead and get to the newsletter section. Crux, you can let us know in chat how excited you are for this new newsletter come out. He does all of the work for that for the most part, and then we also put TA at the bottom of the newsletter. You guys loved it last week, gave us a lot of feedback. You love the concept at least, but it was way too long. So this week we've cut it in half, I believe, in terms of length. Now it's only 7 or 8 pages, and that's going to be coming out today at the end of the stream. So make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. It's not going to come out immediately after because there's a couple edits to be made, a couple I's to dot, and a couple T's to cross, a couple T-Shroom T's to be crossed there. But just know that that's coming out at the end of the day, and Crux played a big role in that. So go ahead and follow him. We're on his Twitter. What is Crux's Twitter? Is it at Crux of Crypto? King of Crux?
We need to
Something
put it
like
in our.
that.
We need to put it in our down in our links there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in any case, you know him. You love him in the Discord here on the Investing Bros Discord and the Chart Prime Discord. But let's go ahead and move on into the stories. One last thing, though, you can find the newsletter. Where's that going to be? That's going to be in the paid chats there on Discord. So for our paying members in Discord, you will be able to get access to that newsletter. And guys, remember, it's just in its beta phase still. We're still kind of developing the concept of the newsletter. Eventually, there will be some big changes that come to that from an accessibility standpoint.
And
but rest assured.
And for our Chart Prime members that are in here, because we got a lot of our Chart Prime Discord members in here too, it will also be in the paid sections of announcements for premium. So, yeah.
Speaking of Chart Prime, we actually have some excellent discount codes for Chart Prime in our in this very description here for this video. You get access to the free Chart Prime Discord with this link here, and then also you get 45% discount off your first month or quarter purchase. So that's up to you. Obviously, the quarter is going to be a little bit more expensive, but 45% discount on those options using this link here from the Investing Bros. And guys, obviously, we can't say enough about how awesome Chart Prime is. Now, what is Chart Prime? Maybe you're super new to trading. Maybe you're super new to investing. If I turn all of these cool colors and lines off, then you get a lot less understanding of what could be going on here for the Tesla chart, right? You can still see the oscillator. Let me even turn this off. So now you're quote unquote flying blind, right? So this is what you see without Chart Prime. Now, if I turn all this back on, you get way more indication of the price movement of Tesla. It shows you where it is, where Piper and I just ran through and showed you, the proximity to these important ranges, to the order buying box, where price is likely to find support. All of this is very, very helpful for anyone who is looking to get into trading, whether you're very experienced or a novice or someone who's new to trading. You're going to find a lot of value. Again, that link is here in our Discord, in our description, and it's right here, and you get 45% off. Now, this is one of the highest discounts in all of the land, in all of the interwebs land that you're going to find for Chart Prime. So go ahead and check that out. Even if you don't think you're going to buy it, go ahead, check it out. Go see what's going on over there at chartprime.com and see if Chart Prime is right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can join the Discord for free, even if they don't want to sign up yet, and get, input over there from the community. So, yep, good stuff over there. Hey, we did have somebody come in here. First off, Crux gave his Twitter, which is at Stephen Nally. Sorry. And then, so that's in the chat there below. And then somebody else said something here. Oh, Eric Wallen asked if Beamer escaped, and that why is he not sitting in Tim's chair across from you? So
yeah, unfortunately, Beamer is much too unpredictable for me to have him on set. He would probably be licking my toes or barking to want to get out of the studio if I was to let him in. So there's not going to be any Beamer.
Probably so.
Now, if I can get some time and get creativity juices flowing, we might see a Beamer tomorrow on the show. I don't want to promise it because there's a good chance it won't happen, but there is a chance that it will happen. So we shall see. If there's a little bit of bearish divergence on that possibility, but we shall see.
T-shirt, what do you got? What do you got for news talk this week? You got some good stuff lined up for us?
I do. Let's go ahead and get into that right now. Is Russia about to overtake the United States as the largest Bitcoin miner? It certainly looks like it's possible. According to BitRiver, goodness, I'm all over the place. Russian technology firm that operates hydroelectric power cryptocurrency mining facilities. Russia's mining capacity reached 1 gigawatt in March 2023, putting it in second place for the first time. In comments reported by a Russian organization, BitRiver CEO Igor Runets said that Russia's climb in the rankings comes as the pace of mining in the U.S. is slowed by rising key terms here: electricity prices and the abolition of tax incentives. Very important movement there domestically here in the United States. In addition, the vast majority of the equipment was purchased by American miners on credit. So many over-leveraged companies, where have we heard that before, are in the process of bankruptcy or have already gone bankrupt yet. So we don't talk about mining too much, but this on this channel, but this is important because American incentives to mine are actually decreasing, while it looks like Russian incentives to mine are increasing. So that'll be something to watch. And from the book that came out recently from Jason Lowery, Soft War, which I might as well go ahead and show you guys, this is important. From a soft war perspective, this is not a good thing because there's a potential for some things to happen where these countries actually use Bitcoin mining as power projection. So this is Jason Lowery here. He is a U.S. Space Force and MIT graduate, and he did his dissertation or whatever it is he did over at MIT on Bitcoin. And it's a best-selling author of software. And so take into consideration maybe purchasing this book. I don't get any kind of kickback from you purchasing it, but it is very important, and it's in a novel theory on power projection and national strategic significance of Bitcoin. Plays very nicely into this headline: Is Russia about to overtake U.S. as the largest Bitcoin miner? That would be problematic if it did, because of the theories purported in Jason Lowery's book. We're going to move on here to the next headline here, which is a name that you're very familiar with, but more than likely despise down to the core. That is Sam Bankman-Fried. He has declared Alameda unauditable. A new report has shown. So let's get into some of the details here. This one is pretty crazy. Did my highlighters go away? It looks like they did. Unfortunately, let me refresh here and see if I can recover my highlights. Oh, they popped up for a second. Did you see that? There they are. Okay. Well, I have an idea of where I need to read. The 45-page report published Sunday afternoon by FTX Trading and its affiliate debtors, described in painstaking detail FTX's slapdash record keeping, near non-existent cybersecurity defenses, and its sparse expertise in key areas like finance. One of the more eye-catching items concerned Alameda Research, the trading firm that allegedly had access to billions of dollars in customer funds stored with FTX. The report stated that Alameda often had difficulty understanding what its positions were, let alone hedging or accounting for them. Former CEO SBF, now under house arrest and facing a litany of criminal charges, described Alameda in internal communications as hilariously beyond any threshold of any auditor being able to even get partially through an audit. So those are his words on what he thought Alameda's auditing expectations might be. He went on, Alameda is unaudible. That's where you get your headline quote. I don't mean this in the sense of a major accounting firm will have reservations about auditing it. I mean this in the sense we are only able to ballpark what its balances are, let alone something like comprehensive transaction history. And get this, guys, this is the part that really knocked my socks off. We sometimes find 50 million in assets lying around that we lost track of, such as life, c'est la vie. This is insane, guys. And this shows that there were big snakes in the grass in crypto all through 2000 to 2022, the end of 2022. And some of those snakes were exposed. But you have to assume that some of these practices and some of these approaches towards crypto, these predatory, carefree, laissez-faire, dangerous, and reckless approaches towards very large exchanges, that these attitudes and these perspectives are still lingering in the crypto space and that they potentially still need to be purged. And these could go up to some of the biggest names. So we shall see. Piper, what are you thinking about this? Is this something that matters to you? I know this isn't a market moving headline, but does this speak to you in terms of the larger crypto narrative at all?
Yeah, I think it just tells people what we already knew, that they were a soup sandwich when it came to running a business. Like the only entity that I know that would run a business more into the ground than Sam Bankman-Fried and his team would be like the United States Army, because we'd be bankrupt if they were a business. They would have closed years ago. So yeah, I think this is just really more of what we already knew. And unauditable, it's just. Yeah, you think when you don't have good bookkeeping and nothing makes sense when you're doing it, how do you think it looks when you look at it backwards? It definitely doesn't make sense. So,
yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, this article doesn't really lend much insight to whether or not people are going to get their money back from FTX. So that is information still to come. Definitely going to have an impact on Bitcoin price as the potentially loads of crypto investors get their money back and then dump it onto the market. But that is not indicated at all, any information about that in this article, in this latest development. But what is to note is the new management of FTX, headed by CEO John Ray III, today released its first interim report on control failures at the collapsed crypto exchange. It's a 45-page report, so it's pretty in-depth. If you wanted to get your hands on it and give that a read, I would strongly recommend it. I certainly am going to be doing that myself. Moving along into our other stories here. Community wants Arbitrum Foundation to return 700 million ARB to the DAO treasury, therefore. Arbitrum. Now, Piper, I know, has a hand in this. He's invested. So I'm definitely going to be throwing it over to him to kind of get his take. But let me get into some of the details here of this article that are as follows. The move comes after Arbitrum Foundation transferred the funds without receiving the community's approval in March. Bad. This is a symbolic gesture to demonstrate. Now, this is from, according to the proposal, the foundation should process with its budget plan only after returning the tokens. This is a symbolic gesture to demonstrate that the governance holders ultimately control the DAO, not the Arbitrum service provider nor the foundation, said a community member. So that is from a community member there. Voting will end on April 14th. At the time of writing, 55% of voters supported the proposal, 42% opposed it, and 2% abstained. But I actually have the refreshed results here. These are the latest results, and they have actually moved since this morning when I first looked at them. So it is now at 61% against and 37% for this returning of the 700 million ARB token. So Piper, is this what you want? Is this the outcome that you're desiring here? This 61%. I'd like to get your take and kind of hear what your thoughts are overall on this project and the story.
So it's a little bit difficult to put the monkeys back in the cage once you let them out. Is my opinion on that. I actually got out of my Arbitrum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I bought it at $1.25, and then I sold it at $1.50, and then I bought it back again at $1.16, and then I sold it again at $1.25 again. And it, yeah. So, hey, I'm all about the gains, right? It ain't how much you make, it's how much you keep.
That's
so,
right.
I got out of it, put that over into Alluvium and H bar when they were both looking poised to move, and they both have. So that's what I did with that money. I am of the mindset that I don't have a lot of trust for Arbitrum at this point. I mean, when your main operators all vote against something, and you as a centralized entity go, thanks for all your time and your votes and your energy. I'm doing what I want. I do what I want. I don't want a centralized. I don't want a centralized asset that has the mentality of a 2-year-old toddler. So, I got out of it, and I'm very bullish on Polygon Matic again, which I never really wasn't not bullish on Polygon Matic, but I did think that there was going to be some competition there with Arbitrum, and Arbitrum showed their cards, and they were not a pretty hand. So,
no, I feel the same way. I didn't touch it because a lot of what you were saying to me, kind of behind the scenes and on Discord, which is that
I did not give you financial advice, for the record.
Right. No, it's not financial advice at all. So I never got into it. We'll see how it goes. But before we get into this next story, I want you guys to go ahead and let us know what stocks and what cryptos you would like us to do some TA on here in the back quarter of this show, where we do our Q&A session. We'll go in and we'll take a look at stocks. We'll take a look at crypto. If you have a headline, we'll go ahead and take a look at that as well, and any kind of breaking news or something that we're not seeing on our radar. So we'll go ahead and get into our last story here. But before we do, Piper, you had something on the screen there. What was it?
That was Crux of Crypto saying Piper and I bought ARB together and to add to our HODL bags, and he sold without me. It's betrayal at its finest. So,
nice.
Yeah, that's what friends are for, Crux.
Not the best battle buddy there, but let's go ahead and get into this last story here, guys. And this one's a little bit of a chonker, so we might be spending a few minutes on this before we get into the Q&A. Crypto bills don't lie. Goodness gracious. Crypto bills didn't die last session. Lawmakers plot reintroductions. So let's check this out. There's a couple of them. We'll start with Warren's plan to take two. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts, said in a hearing earlier this week she would be giving her Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act another go at the Senate floor this session. The law, introduced in December 2022, was intended to bring crypto and digital asset companies into the current anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism framework. So critics said the bill, introduced in the shadow of FTX's collapse, enhanced surveillance, but would not have prevented the exchange's failure, as FTX was operating illegally under existing law. So Aunt Warren, as we like to call her here on the Investing Bros, of which you should subscribe and like to, is getting a...
That's Auntie Beth. Auntie Beth.
Aunt Warren. I like Aunt Warren. Auntie Beth is good too. So, but she's taken another go at it here. So that's the top one here. I would imagine that's because she's a senator, and she is a very prominent senator. She ran for office in 2016 in the last election. So, she's considered to be a thought leader in the Senate, not in the crypto space, but she thinks she is. Retirement plan legislation. The Financial Freedom Act, first introduced in May 2022, already made its second debut in the Senate when sponsor Tom Tuberville, Republican of Alabama, brought an amended version to the floor in February. The new improved version seek to expand crypto investment opportunities for retirement funds by prohibiting the Department of Labor from limiting options that may be available in 401k plans, participating through self-direct brokerage windows. So this is very, very big. This could be huge for adoption. Meddling in 401k investments through overregulation restrains financial growth and restrictions personal liberty. Tuberville said in February's statement, the federal government shouldn't choose winners and losers in the investment game. I couldn't agree with him more there, but this was all before the FTX shabacle, as Tim likes to say. So this has, definitely been downgraded in the minds of congressmen and senators. So that should be pretty interesting. Tim, goodness gracious, Piper, what are your thoughts on this one? Is this something that you're tracking? And so far, do either of these bills do you think have a chance of passing?
So I will point out that at the beginning of that, it said digital asset money laundering bill.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is because, Auntie Beth can't declare war on the biggest laundering currency, which is the US dollar. So she had to specify digital asset. But I think we're going to see a lot more coming out of Auntie Beth or Aunt Warren, however you want to say it, because I think this is going to be the campaign she runs on, and I think she's going to try to make a bid for a higher seat or maybe even president. So, so I think this is the campaign that she's running on. I'm going to protect the little people that got, totally raked through the coals by these exchanges and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, she hasn't talked to a single one of us. The only people she's talked to are the banks and the other big investment traditional firms. So,
Right.
yeah, she can claim all day long that she's doing this and pushing these bills to protect us, but we all know it's so that she can pad her pocket to become a multimillionaire on her $140,000 a year job. So,
Yeah. Well, I think my conclusion on there's a couple other ones that are somewhat interesting, but I think my conclusion on this is that neither will pass. I think unfortunately it's strange because you'd think that regulation about something like cryptocurrency would be much more aggressively pursued. But, ultimately the IRS has come out with one of the biggest questions, which is you got to pay taxes on capital gains in crypto. I think that's kind of the big one that has been answered so far. And I think the rest of the regulation, they're just kind of circling the wagon. And by they, I mean Republicans, Democrats, decision makers, policymakers there in Washington and in the capital of your state. But they ultimately don't really know what they want to do. They don't know what direction they want to do. And now you have a whole new dimension of DOT claiming that their coins are just part of a software. So I think it's still early days for regulation, but guys, we need it. We need regulation. We need clarity in order for, ultimately institutional grade money, institutional grade investment to enter the space. But perhaps this delay is good because it would get more retail investment. It's the time for retail to invest. And perhaps that's that big narrative that we need to push Bitcoin through 30K. Well, that's going to round out our stories here, guys, on the Investing Bros. I've been bringing you some of the stories here on the crypto bill, on the Arbitrum update, on Russia soon to perhaps eclipse United States in mining capabilities or in mining volume at least. And then Sam Bankman, or I guess the new CEO of FTX, John Ray III, kind of exposing just the level of neglect and depravity that was going on over there at FTX, which doesn't seem like news, but he has issued a 45-page report, which in theory inches us closer to a verdict on whether or not you will get your money back if you have funds frozen there in FTX. Well, let's go ahead and get into our Q&A. Piper, what tickers are you seeing in the chat?
Well, I saw somebody ask about CleanSpark.
Okay.
And then someone asked about running a comparison of Bitcoin to M2. I tried to do that, but M2 was a line chart, not a candlestick chart, so it didn't really work out. I'll have to look in on how to do that one later. But I do want to point out something here real fast. Jumping over into my chart here, this is our Bitcoin CME futures. And we do have a little pullback coming today. I do want to point out to everybody that we do have a CME gap coming in here right about 28,000. So I would not be surprised if we do see that little pullback from where we currently are today down to that 28,000 range. It won't be that much. It'll be about a 1% move. So close that gap out and keep us going here. You can see typically we do have those come back and get filled, for example, here closing out this. So not going to be surprised if we see that today. I very likely believe that we could see a $28,000 retest today to close that gap and hit that psychological solid 28K number. So that's what I'm seeing there. Do you want to do CleanSpark and pull that up for Eric Wallen, and I will see what people come in. Oh yeah, you also got AI, so you can do CleanSpark and AI. So
Yes. So I've got AI pulled up here, and there's a couple thoughts. I've got it on the 4 hour. And what you can see here is really, really obeying this equilibrium range here. It has broken out a little bit to the downside of it, but it has really been hanging around that point of gravitas. You can see that back here it was trading not too much farther away to the downside. I'd say averaging there around 21.50 per share, and now that is about where it is, 21.70. So according to the oscillator, I believe this is oversold by quite a bit, and it's been that way for a while as it's trading outside or this this oscillator line is outside of the cloud, of the red and green cloud here. It broke through the zero line there and is now just kind of hovering down below on this yellow line, which would be support there in the oscillator. So very interesting. Not any kind of calls on the outside of the range here yet from Chart Prime, but I would imagine that we'd be getting an oversold call here pretty soon. But that's on the 4-hour. Let's take a look here at the daily, and then I'll give you a little bit more of a just kind of an outward look here at AI, C3.ai, which had a giant rise back here. You'll remember when ChatGPT became a very big thing and people started to adopt it. AI names in the equities and the crypto side saw a very nice reprice to the upside. And as you can see, AI C3.ai specifically, which is an equity, it's a stock, not a coin, has not broken back through $20.31. It has gotten bought every time it's come down this low. So I would imagine that this time is probably not going to be different. It's going to get, it already has wicked down on the daily chart down to 2044 and got bought there both times on 2 separate days. So now we are we could potentially see a candlestick close inside of the previous green candlestick. That would have been from Thursday. This would be bullish. It would be nice to close above that, obviously, but this would be bullish. So also you're seeing the candlesticks here. I'm sorry, not the candlesticks, the red histograms accelerating extremely high. I'd say that is probably a sign of probably overselling there as well. On the MACD on the 1 day. And then the oscillator on the 1 day, got to be honest with you guys, I'm still trying to kind of acclimate myself to this oscillator. So Piper, I don't know if you can see my screen, but what is the Chart Prime oscillator telling you about C3.ai here on the daily chart?
It looks like we do have some more downside coming on the oscillator ribbon right there. We had the overbought, the downtrend arrow, the ribbon flip, and then we had the red dot twist, plus the MACD giving us confluence of the signal line being crossed by the MACD blue line and the histogram pushing downward in a solid red state. Gives me confluence that the oscillator says we still have more downside coming. I would not be surprised to see it come down to that dynamic reactor, and if it breaks that, I definitely would be watching for it to come down and hit the order blocks, grab that liquidity from the institutional order blocks there before coming back up.
Gotcha. So it's had 3 consecutive higher highs, and it was able to break through this order block resistance here, and it did not come back down and test the dynamic reactor. But you're thinking this time is different because if you look down at the oscillator, it actually peaked up outside of that cloud, got way overbought, and Correct. Now is going to suffer the consequence and come back down and test that dynamic.
Yeah, to explain to some people why they see these like big run-ups like that and then a drop all of a sudden, it's because of the liquidity movement. So when it pumps up like that and people sell off, I'm using your chart right now.
So it's gone. Sorry.
Okay, so when people see that big run-up like that, and then it comes back down, and what you not got to do is those people bought, right? So it's not new money coming into an asset, for example. What it is that money went out when people sold off and took profit. It comes back down, and now they have all of their profit plus what they initially put in to go back in on it again. And that is what adds liquidity to a market without new money coming into a market. So it's actually really healthy to see a big run up, a bigger pullback, find support, everyone rushes in again with all the profits from previously. That adds money to it without new buyers. So it's healthy. Yeah. It's a good thing. When I see that, it makes me very happy because I get another opportunity to get in, and I know that liquidity and health is in that asset that I'm looking at.
So kind of hearing more a buy than a sell than there from Piper, not financial advice, but that there is a good chance that we'll come back and pull down to a much better buying opportunity down here at the dynamic reactor. I think Correct. I'd agree with that. But if you are really bullish on AI and you do not have any C3.ai, there's really only a couple other stocks that are better to buy on the AI story, and that would be Google and Microsoft themselves. But this would be kind of the underdog here, C3.ai. There's some other AI names out there that on the equity side that are looking pretty good as well. But I would say, C3.ai is definitely one of the ones you want to have in your equities bag if you are bullish AI, which, at this point, I would say you have every reason to be, because there definitely will be some developments in AI in the next couple of years. That's
For sure.
almost a given. So Piper, why don't you go ahead and do yours, and we'll do Clean Spark after that.
All right, let me jump over here. So taking a look here, guys, I'm looking at TRB here. So one thing I want to point out on here is this was actually a trade call, and let me pull it up here and show you. On our in our Chart Prime community, NASDAQ 75 does crypto trade signals for our premium members, and he did a trade on this 5 to 10x, gave the entry 15 to 1540. Here's all of your take profit lines. And there's your stop loss. It was a short-term trade. He gave all the setup that he was looking at. And if we go back and we take a look, actually, let me show you. It actually hit first target, second target, third target. It hit all targets hit last night. He crushes over there, 80% accuracy. And they're absolutely free trade signals if you are subscribed to Chart Prime Indicators. But the reason I want to come over here and take a look is to see what's going on with TRB right now. Because we had this run up. It did play very well, just like NASDAQ 75 called. We had a nice, beautiful retest to our dynamic reactor here. And I'm looking at this on a 4-hour chart. So this was Sunday, early Sunday morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning on Easter Sunday yesterday, that it retested this. Came up, broke right through after a retest on the upper trade band of the predictive ranges here. Got a little rejection on the 382 fib here, and then came back, regained a little bit. Again, there's that sell-off, people back in, right? That's what you want to see, is that liquidity. Now we're getting rejection on the upper resistance band of the predictive ranges. Let me go ahead and drop off those fibs just so you can see what I'm talking about there. So this is the predictive ranges here from Chart Prime. We hit that resistance line, multiple rejections trying to get through there. But what I'm seeing is that we're now going to be squeezed in between the 382 and which we've already proven multiple times as very hefty resistance. Now it's going to be very strong support, right? I do see us bouncing back and forth here on TRB. If you guys are looking to get into this, I think that I would wait for a retest on the 382. It does look like on the MACD we have a little bit of cool down still coming, and it does look like we are definitively overbought down here. So I could see this pulling back down, chesting the 382, like maybe a part one of a trade entry there, part two of a trade entry coming in on the lower trade band here, or the upper trade band here, because from there you're going to have the dynamic reactor, which is shown very, very strong support once it got up through here. So yeah, that's what I'm watching for TRB. I think that was a good run up. If you wanted to get into it, I think there's another one coming somewhere around the 1485 range. So wanted to pull that one up. It was a good trade. I love when NASDAQ 75 drops those crypto trade signals over there, because they're fantastic opportunities to grab some quick money. And with somebody that's running over 80% accuracy for the past 12 months, I don't know why you would not want to follow him on his trades. So,
yeah, I certainly do, and I love to do it. Let's take a look over here at Clean Spark. This is a fresh screen for me. I haven't looked at it at all because I was doing some other stuff here. I was paying attention to what Piper was saying, to be honest with you. But let's take a look here. All right, first thing I'm noticing on this is it's below the equilibrium. All right, so Clean Spark on the daily chart here, guys. Clean Spark is I believe they're a battery producer. They do something when it comes to EVs. Either they produce batteries or they are an EV company, but I'm pretty sure they just make batteries and charging stations and things like that. Piper, do you know? Maybe you can Google it. Either way.
I'm going to Google it for you. I'll look it up.
Yeah, either way, they're on even the lower side here of the equidistant point between equilibrium and discount. So I would say, they're discounted right now. The question is are they discounted for a good reason or a bad reason? Are they slept on, or are they getting sold because value is running out in
Bitcoin
this
miner
concept? Bitcoin miner, Clean Spark? Okay.
Yep.
I could have sworn they made EV batteries. I must have been thinking about something else. What the heck?
I think you're thinking of QuantumScape.
I think that's probably the case.
QS. I think yep.
Well, there you go. The other thing I'm noticing here is it's trading well below and has not successfully broken through the dynamic reactor and flipped it green for a while. And the time that it did was only really one time. Guys, I would say that the Bitcoin miners I have stayed away from. It's tough to know. Like, Satoshi designed the Bitcoin mining system in order to distribute Bitcoin evenly throughout a large population, like the population of humans on Earth. Now we've reached a point where a lot of the mining, frankly, has become centralized. I don't want to opine too much on kind of the overall narrative here, but Bitcoin mining companies, as you can see here, this one at least has only really come down. And obviously it's going to be in tandem, pretty close with the price of Bitcoin. So, so Bitcoin goes, so the price per share of the mining companies. But what I would say is that why would you buy a mining company when you can just buy Bitcoin? Now, maybe you know something about a specific mining company, and have some mining companies done better than others? Yes. But just from a technical analysis standpoint, it's almost like, why even, you're trying to put makeup on a pig, right? It's like, why even try to figure this out from an investment standpoint? From a trading standpoint, absolutely. I could say right off the bat, this is making a lower low right now. It failed really to close. I mean, it looks like it did for a second. It closed and flipped the dynamic reactor green for a minute, but this thing's coming back down, I think. That would be my guess. And maybe you find a nice position here, and once it reaches or gets near the discount range, but anything before that, and I think you're probably, if you're taking a position, it's a short position. So I'll throw it over to Piper. Piper, what do you think about that analysis?
Yeah, the only time that mining companies really do good is when the official Bitcoin market bull run starts off. I mean, that's it.
Right.
Like you can see right now, all this downtrend. Now, mind you, that is a falling wedge and it is a bullish pattern. But I mean, it could stay downtrend for a long time, and it could really go down much further from here. Like, I don't know that it would come all the way down to test the lower green band on that, because that would be like almost at zero. But I don't think that I don't think I would get into this. If you guys are looking to get into Bitcoin exposure without getting into a crypto exchange or something, I think
MicroStrategies
is not financial advice, but me personally, I would look at MicroStrategies. If Bitcoin does a 10% move, MicroStrategies will do a 12 to 14. It's so weird. Like when Bitcoin moves up, MicroStrategy really moves up. So
yeah.
If you're looking to get into a traditional investment field, not financial advice again, but if I wanted to have exposure to Bitcoin without buying Bitcoin, I would be looking at MicroStrategies, not a mining company. So
yeah, there's another one too. There's an ETF. It's not an ETF. I'm sorry. It's a managed strat. It doesn't matter. It is ETF. Okay, interesting. Well, CRYP. CRYP is a ticker we can take a look at here really quickly. CRYP. We actually had him on the show, the fund manager of this. CRYP. Why isn't this one coming up? Interesting. Well, okay. That's a little bit of a roadblock.
We'll bring it up tomorrow. We'll look at it today and bring it up. Oh, you find it?
Yeah, I found it. So you can see right off the bat, very low trading volume. But what I'll say is I bought into this when he was on the show. What was his name? Maybe it's on here. Yeah, it doesn't say his name. I can't remember what his name was, but he impressed me. His knowledge definitely impressed me. He has kind of a similar level of conviction in Bitcoin as Michael Saylor, who, if you don't know, that's who is behind MicroStrategies. That's why these guys are so exciting. MicroStrategies over there tends to mirror Bitcoin's price movement. But this is just another one to consider. And they have actually outperformed Bitcoin's price because they actually do a managed fund of Bitcoin, essentially. And that's what you're getting when you do the ETF. So when it moves down, they actually sell. And when it moves up, they'll go ahead and go overweight Bitcoin. But that is managed. And as you can see here, there's not a lot of data to go on. That's why Chart Prime's kind of having a hard time really giving you much to go on there.
Yeah, very low volume. They have a lot of low volume. That's the problem.
Which is why I've put the line chart on there.
Yep.
So, but we're reaching the end here of our show just in general. So let's go ahead and back out of this and kind of let me summarize. So So we had some good Q&A talking about CleanSpark, which we were helpfully reminded by Google is a Bitcoin mining company. That allowed us to chat a little bit about mining, which I would say is not the best. It's not the best way to go about it. If you want to get into mining, buy a GPU and mine Bitcoin, right? Investing in the stocks has not proven to be a winning strategy, in my opinion. So that's going to be our show, though, guys. Piper, I'll go ahead and flip it over to you to kind of give any last updates, any last shout outs before we go ahead and sign off.
Nope. I just appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate everyone that's watched the show today. Without Tim around, we don't have our fearless bearded leader up here in the front run. So I appreciate you guys being with us here today. He will be back by Wednesday morning for the Wednesday morning show, and we will be doing TA talk over in the Chart Prime Discord community for our Investing Bros Patreons and our premium members. This week, we're bringing on Drew Wolfer. It's going to be a great show. Going to have him on, and he's going to be talking about an amazing service called Pre-Send. And then I'm also going to be on this afternoon. I'm going to be on Crypto Archie's show. Actually, this morning, nice. I believe. On Crypto Archie's show, we're going to be doing some TA over there with Crypto Archie. It's going to be fantastic. You got anything coming up this week too, Shroom? Are you on anything?
I'm going to watch that. That's okay. The big thing. I'm definitely going to be watching you on over on Crypto Archie. Cool. Anything else? I mean, other than the newsletter, guys, the newsletters could be coming out probably an hour from around now, and you'll be looking out for that. We just want your continued feedback. I mean, the information in those newsletters are now up. Like, they're great. They're awesome. I would definitely subscribe to it. I would read it myself. But we're still definitely very much in the beta phase of that newsletter. So we're welcoming your feedback, and make it your own, guys. Let us know if you have a really big idea for it. We're definitely in the process right now where we still integrate those ideas. CryptoSec guy who's in the chat quite a bit. He's going to be writing a security section every once in a while, probably nice. Once or twice a month. Nice. We weren't able to get that into this newsletter. We wanted to, but just for logistical reasons, it was impossible. But be looking out for that newsletter, guys. It's going to be in the paid chats for the Investing Bros Discord, and I believe the Chart Prime Discord as well. It's going to go over there. So be looking for that, and that's going to be really exciting.
Get all those links down below. Somebody asked how to become premium. All the links are down below in the description.
Yep. So absolutely.
Awesome.
And the only other thing is be looking out for our new mixed coverage on the earnings reports coming out starting Friday.
Yep. Excellent. Thanks for joining us, you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. As always, trade safe. Investing Bros, we love having you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.